Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Going to talk some NFL. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Florida. Hope it's beautiful wherever you are, but definitely going to get to it and got a pretty interesting show. Going to talk about CJ Stroud and what he's doing this season and how amazing that is. But before we get to that, if you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, you know what time it is. Please go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell so you can be kept up to date whenever new content drops on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast, and the show should come right up. If you enjoy the content, please go ahead, give us a like, and give us that 5-star review. Also, it'll help us out a lot if you would leave a comment and if you would share the podcast with other people you know that are sports fans that want to hear a different kind of voice than what you would hear in the normal mainstream sports media shows. So when you do all these things, you know what happens. Helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. Now let's get right to it. Okay, so CJ Stroud, he is firmly entrenched in a position to do something that we haven't seen in the NFL since the mid 1950s with the great Jim Brown. God bless the dead. He is firmly entrenched and having an opportunity to win the NFL MVP. Now, before we get back to that, let's take it back a little bit, right? CJ Stroud, obviously Ohio State quarterback last year and the year before that, and was playing extremely well. But, you know, a lot of times the knock is if you were an Ohio State quarterback, you're not going to be good on the next level. You play with all these elite weapons, so your numbers look better than they are. And to some extent, for the most part, that's been true because Ohio State quarterbacks haven't really panned out to being elite guys on this level, the NFL level, that is. Now, Justin Fields still has a long way to go, but has made pretty big jumps this season. We'll see what happens to him in the future. Don't know if he's going to end up staying in Chicago, highly unlikely, or if he goes somewhere else and gets an opportunity to start and be in a good situation with good weapons and good coaching. But this is about CJ Stroud, not about Justin Fields. So, CJ Stroud is doing his thing, and coming out last year in the draft, I'm not a guy who does a whole lot of mock drafts personally. Like, that's really not my thing. But just in terms of watching, the two top guys obviously were Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Bryce Young ended up going number one overall, CJ Stroud number two. And for the life of me, I just couldn't figure out, as good as he was in college, and if he was a Heisman Trophy winner and I believe a national champion, why there was so much clout and attention given to Bryce Young. Like, first, Bryce Young, he's a physically small guy, right? Obviously, he's under 6 feet tall. He's like 180, 185 pounds, really small in the NFL. Gonna have to take a lot of punishment. Doesn't have an elite arm, but is very smart and is very mobile. So I was saying, and I said this all last year, you can go back and look on previous episodes. And I believe also my guy, Daniel Kelly, the Format Podcast official draft analyst and former NFL scout, he also had very high praise for CJ Stroud. He had likened him to Warren Moon, the all-time great NFL passer. But we both had CJ Stroud going number one. Now, I was about to say I can't for the life of me figure out why Bryce Young actually ended up going number one over him, but I know what it is. First, I talked about the Ohio State thing. And secondly, is the fact that Bryce Young played in the SEC, right? So I don't want to be disrespectful to the job anyone's doing because I want to assume that all these guys do their job. But I truly believe that on the NFL level, there's some lazy scouting going on, i.e., if you have two guys, go with the SEC guy. And that's just not the case because, yes, the SEC puts out a lot of quality players in the league, but they're not the only place that you can find outstanding players. That's, just what it is. But, you know, Bryce Young played in the SEC, played for Bama, and so that media / hype machine really helps. It's like if you play for certain schools at certain positions, you might not be better than the other guy, but you'll get more attention. Like if you're an Ohio State wide receiver, right? You'll get a little more attention. And there might be another guy out there that's better than you, but because you're an Ohio State wide receiver, the assumption is that you're really good, that you've gotten the coaching. Shout out Brian Hartline, really, really good wide receiver coach and recruiter. But yeah, so that's kind of how that thing goes, right? And like I said, and other people have said, Daniel Kelly and more, that they would have gone CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud is a lot bigger. I think he's like 6'4, 6'3, 218 pounds. He's got a big arm. He can process. We saw how he can play against elite level defenses when he played against Georgia in the playoff last year, really did his thing. And so for me, it wasn't just based on what I saw in that Georgia game in the national semifinal. It was what I had seen for the last 2 years with CJ Stroud. But anyway, he comes into the league, and this guy, as I mentioned, has himself firmly entrenched in the MVP discussion, right? Nobody thought that Houston was going to be any good this year, and Houston, myself included, but the Houston Texans have a legitimate shot at winning this division, that being the AFC South. Houston is 6-4. And the crazy thing is, they have a team that has all rookie coach and coordinators, right? That's absurd, right? So the defensive coordinator for Houston is Matt Burke. He's been coaching 20 years in the NFL. This is his first time as a coordinator. Obviously, we know that D'Amico Ryans is a rookie head coach, former defensive coordinator, San Francisco 49ers. Offensive coordinator is Bobby Slowick, who was, I think he was either the run or pass game coordinator for the 49ers, offensive passing game coordinator for the 49ers, right? So obviously he and D'Amico Ryans have a relationship. They know each other well. They work together well. And so they, when D'Amico Ryans took the job in Texas, he brought this guy with him. And here's the thing. You look at this Texans roster, right? And they don't have an elite roster. They don't have a bunch of experienced, outstanding coaches. Now, let me take that back. A bunch of experienced coaches in terms of their coordinators and their head coach. All these guys are rookies, but CJ Stroud is out here doing it, right? His first 9 games coming into today, he he was getting 62% completions, 2,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, today, his game wasn't the greatest, right? But they won. Today, he goes 27 for 37, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Now, the 3 interceptions are not like CJ Stroud. He doesn't throw picks a lot, but still, he's only got 5 on the year and 17 touchdown passes. Like, for a rookie, this is crazy. And again, this is not a team that he walks into that has elite weapons on the outside. Again, he's got the rookie coaching. So, what does he have to work with that's allowing him to do this? Outstanding skill, ability, a clearly work ethic, and opportunity to where they are trusting him. They are allowing him to go down the field. A lot of times you don't see rookie quarterbacks really get that opportunity to go down the field as much as he's doing it. So there's a lot of credit to go around. CJ Stroud is really doing his thing. I'm so impressed with the dude. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, who knew that he would have done all this? Now, again, I would have taken him number one, but that also doesn't mean that despite taking him number one overall, that I would have expected him to be doing this, right? So you see, game after game, he's just doing his thing. And it's really incredible. He's like 10th in the league in total QBR this season. And again, what's he at? Roughly 3,000 passing yards already. He's got the 17 touchdowns and the 5 picks. Like, he is playing extremely well. His team is going to have an opportunity to win their division and maybe get into the playoffs. And nobody could have expected any of that. And he is the linchpin. Now, you got to wonder, obviously, offensive rookie of the year is pretty much sewn up, but you got to wonder, are they going to go ahead and let a rookie quarterback walk into the league and win MVP? Now, I think if he gets his team into the double figure win column, and then of course, again, they win the division and, get into the playoffs. Now, MVP is a regular season award, but if he can do all that, then he's got a really legitimate chance of doing it. And, again, I'm just so impressed with what I'm seeing. I think he's awesome. And I think this needs to be a lesson to NFL scouts. Don't just default to the SEC guy because you believe that the SEC is just better, right? Now, we're not going to get into the SEC thing. If you listen to this show, you've heard me talk about it time and time again, but don't just default to the SEC guy. Do the work. And the scouting is lazy. Now, maybe if you want to say a running back or a defensive lineman or a defensive back, oh, okay, cool. I can see where you would lean towards the SEC and give them the benefit of the doubt. But that also doesn't mean that there's not a lot of elite players in the Big Ten. And there's not some really good guys in the Big 12 or the Pac 12. Well, Pac 12 is about to be defunct, but you get the point. Or even in the group of 5, like, there's guys all over the place if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to look for them. And so I'm just like, don't be lazy, do the work, and let's find these guys. And CJ Stroud, now don't get me wrong, it's not like he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was the number 2 pick overall. And with that, who knows how bad this could have been if he had gone to Carolina. Carolina clearly is a bad team. Frank Reich is having a lot of difficulty, not able to coach this team up very well. Bryant, Jeez, I can't remember. Bryce Young is really, really struggling with Carolina. He's just having a tough time. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of rookies have struggled in their first year. But the other problem is Carolina doesn't have their first round draft pick because they traded that away to the Bears in the DJ Moore deal. So you traded away the first round pick, you traded away a weapon in DJ Moore. Like, how are you going to make things better for Bryce Young? Now we're really going to see if the Carolina Panthers front office is worth their salt in terms of figuring out doing the scouting to find some guys in the later rounds, as well as figuring out how they're going to work the cap to put some quality pieces around Bryce Young. So yeah, this is really interesting. But again, shout outs to CJ Stroud. Love to see what he's doing. Want to continue to watch and see what he's doing. And I know it probably sounds like I'm a Buckeye or something, and I'm not. I'm not an Ohio State fan at all, as you know. And oh, I didn't even realize I got the Notre Dame shirt on. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, but at the end of the day, I can recognize talent where talent is, and I have a lot of respect for CJ Stroud. I thought that he was the best guy coming out. He's clearly demonstrating that he's the best guy coming out. So I can't even imagine what CJ Stroud is going to be when they are able to put some real elite weapons around him, if they can, maybe like a true number one receiver. I mean, obviously they can run the football now, but you get a true elite number one receiver or a playmaking tight end, and he could be even more dangerous. So definitely waiting to see that. But what I want to know from you is, do you think that CJ Stroud has a legitimate chance to be the NFL MVP? And do you think that if he is put his team in place, say double figure wins and winning the division and getting into the playoffs, do you think that they'll give it to him even though he's a rookie? Leave your comments in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you. I'll be back with you on the next episode, and I'm out. Peace.